You're ready. Cool.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's grants information session. My name's Crystal. I'm the Community Development Grants Officer at the City of Whittlesea. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, the Wurundjeri Willam clan, and pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I understand that other people may not be on Wurundjeri country, so I also extend that respect to anyone else who is off Wurundjeri country. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get into the session. The session is being recorded today and we'll make that available on Council's YouTube channel and we'll link it back to our website. We'll be recording, the recording does include any questions that you put in that Q&A section. And if we don't get around to any questions, we will develop a frequently asked questions information pack, I guess, and put that on the website as well. If you do have questions, please pop them in as they come to mind. We will stop a couple of times for questions throughout the session. And like I said, if we don't get to them, we will answer them somehow. So today's session, we're going to be looking at each of the grant programs that Council currently has on offer or we will be releasing shortly. We'll look at what you can apply for, the timelines, and also what you'll be assessed on for each one of those. So we'll get started. Okay. There is going to be a lot of information in today's session, so if you need to refer back to anything, please check out Council's website, which is, the link is up there on your screen. You'll be able to refer back to this presentation later as well. So before you start applying for grants or looking for grants, make sure you have a clear plan for your funding. There is going to be a lot of grants available, not just with Council, but from external providers as well. And we know that they're time consuming for you guys to write. So make sure you're applying for what's relevant for your group or your business. Make sure you have approval for the application from your board or committee before you start working on it. Have someone in charge of writing the grant as well. So it's okay to work as a team to develop the grant application, to have input. But it's important to have that one person that is responsible for making sure it's submitted on time, that if the grant provider, in this case, if it was Council, we've got one person that we can touch base with who knows what's going on with the application. Time, allow yourself plenty of time to write the application. You might need to go off and collect supporting information. And it's always good to touch base with whoever's providing the grant before you submit. Invest your own resources. So that could be your own cash contribution, or it could be in-kind support, so volunteer hours, or you're providing the labour. Keep your board and committee updated in case, they have a conversation with someone else and they're not aware of what's happening with that grant process. It's always good to keep everyone across what's happening. All right, our first grant program. So this one is one that we've developed in response to COVID. It's part of our COVID response funding package. It's a one-time only opportunity, which provides financial assistance of up to $2,000. And it's available to community groups to help you reconnect with each other by getting back to those activities that you were doing pre-COVID or transitioning to new ways of operating, so putting things online. We've had a lot of questions lately about what you can apply for in this grant program. So, it might be activities that get your group back together, that give them an opportunity to come back and really reconnect. It could be, waiving membership fees or subsidising membership fees as well. This one does close on Friday. So you've still got a couple of days to get that application in. They close at 5 p.m. on Friday. And you'll have until June to complete your project. The assessment for this one, you'll see each criteria has a percentage, and those weightings give you an indication of how important each section of the application is. So the first one is aims and outcomes. So what is it that you want to do, and what are you hoping to get out of that activity? Local need is looking at why your group specifically needs support to come back together or to reconnect if it is online. Group sustainability is looking at how your group will continue into the future, especially, you know, is this activity going to help that and help you keep on going? Equity, access, and inclusion is about enabling people of diverse backgrounds to be involved in all aspects of your project. So right from the planning through to, you know, running your activity, having people in as participants as well as organisers. The next grant program is our Reconnection Grant program. As you can see there, it provides up to $5,000. And these are for projects and events which are open to the wider community. So you may have seen our community development grants or our community event grants in the past. We've kind of merged them and we've come up with the Reconnection Grant program. So for the purpose of this grant, project is, it's a temporary activity. It might be an initiative or a program which happens over multiple dates, whereas an event is something that happens on the one date. With these ones, keep in mind that we understand that restrictions are still going, and you know, it's for reconnecting as those restrictions are lifted. So this grant is actually offered over 2 rounds. The first round opened on Monday and will stay open for applications until mid-October. And the second one will be held next year in March. These ones you'll have 12 months for your project, so don't feel like you have to apply for the money now and use it now. You have got that 12 months to finish your project or event. So again, with the assessment criteria, you'll be assessed. This one has 6 criteria. So again, aims and outcomes, local need, local support. So this one, local support, is looking at whether you're partnering with other organisations or groups. Have you had feedback from the community saying that this particular activity is what they need or want? Again, equity, access, and inclusion. Project sustainability. So will the project's outcomes continue into the future? And we'll also look at your budget for that one. So this next one is specifically for our sporting clubs within the municipality. So the Sports Club Emergency Grant provides assistance of up to $2,000. And it is open now. We don't really have a solid closing date with these ones. It is until the funds run out. So the sooner the better to apply for these ones. So as I said, they are just for our sports clubs. And you'll be assessed based on the seasonal allocation. So are you part of a winter sport club or a summer sport club? How many of your members live within the city of Whittlesea? So, you know, it's okay to apply if some of your members come from outside of the municipality, but we're looking at supporting locally. Revenue impact. So is it a sport that's been able to return to play? Or have you been has your season been cancelled? Where you're located. So we understand that some areas of the city of Whittlesea experience more economic disadvantage than others. So we're looking to support those that need the support more. Also looking at how much cash you've got on hand in the bank to support any bills that are still coming in. And So those are all our kind of COVID-specific ones. I might check and see if we've got any questions at the moment before I throw over to Sarah, who's going to talk about our next lot of grants. No, it doesn't look like we've got any questions yet, so I'm hoping that's because everyone's got all the information they need. I'll throw over to Sarah for the next little bit.
Thank you, Crystal. So my name is Sarah Rowe. I'm the team leader for the economic development team here at the City of Whittlesea, and hopefully there are those that I've been able to discuss or our team has discussed with their project ideas are attending today. So welcome. So as Crystal mentioned, we've got our business assistance grants. So this forms as part of Council's Business Relief and Resilience program, which was endorsed at the September meeting, so just recently. So ideally what we're trying to do here is support businesses with financial relief up to $5,000. And in particular looking at 3 categories, so those that are on the screen at the moment. So looking at business adaptation, here we're wanting to assist local businesses to invest in innovative practices for them to access new markets or enhance their current model in a COVID-safe manner. So understandably, our business community has been severely impacted by what's been going on. So if you have a particular project in mind that you would need this particular funding for, then please put that forward. Some of the ideas that we do look at would look at building modifications, so such as protective screens, it might be PPE. We might also consider projects that are assisting a business transition to an online platform to be able to sell their products or goods. It might even be to get website development and design or e-commerce platforms such as mobile apps. Revitalising spaces, here we're wanting to support projects that will enhance a shop front and their surrounds. So this might include things such as improvements to window displays and facades, signage, and even furniture to activate footpath trading. And the last category that we are looking at is business continuity. So that's looking at projects that strengthen business stability by providing financial assistance. So you can use funding to engage professional business and legal advisory services. Things like this could include advice on managing risk, business diversity, or marketing strategy development. It is worth noting that when you do provide your submission, that it can relate to one or all 3 of those categories, so you aren't bound by a particular category as such. We do certainly encourage that you speak, if you haven't already, that you speak to the economic development team about your project. Although we can't give definitive answers as to yes, that would be funded, or no, that we wouldn't, because we aren't part of the assessment, but we can guide you at least to give you a good understanding of what it is that we're actually looking for. And I'll go into that in a bit more detail in a few minutes. Also, just worth noting that if you are looking at providing a submission in regards to signage or building modifications or footpath trading, again, check with the EcoDev team first, because it may trigger you requiring a permit. And if so, then we want to make sure that that experience is smooth as well. We don't want to hold you up if we just certainly don't have to. Okay, thanks, Crystal. So just showing up there on the screen in regards to key dates. So they did open last Friday, and we are already starting to see a number of applications come in. So thank you for those that are still working through. That's great. Please continue through and pop your application in. It is worth noting that we will aim to provide you an outcome approximately 28 days after your submission. Please be mindful that it may be a little bit longer because we are experiencing quite a volume of applications already, but we'll certainly do our utmost to let you know of the result either way. And, you know, it would be great to have these projects completed by March next year. Of course, we were mindful that we are leading into Christmas, and there may be things that might trigger some delays, but, you know, certainly keep us posted. It is worth noting it is a competitive grant, so there's no guarantee that you will be successful. For those that are unsuccessful, then what the economic development team will do is work with you to see what other programs we can get you involved in that we currently have already, or certainly keep you in the loop with any future programs. So don't think that the grants are going to stop here. There will be other programs as we move through the current phases. Thanks, Crystal. So looking at the assessment, so each application will be assessed according to the 4 criteria that we've proposed. So we have the level of COVID impact. So here what we're looking for is, what the business, what products or services does the business provide, and being able to see how the current pandemic has impacted on your business and your operations. The aims and outcomes. So here we're looking, we're wanting to get a really good understanding as to what your project is, and how crucial it is to your business's sustainability or improvement, and also ensuring that it clearly aligns with one of the 3 categories that we mentioned before. We also have the project sustainability. So here we're wanting to get a really clear understanding as to what the project outcomes will be. So what is it that you're hoping that this particular funding or this project will be able to do for your business once the project's been completed? Again, how long, how will this continue to benefit the business after the project date? And the final criteria is looking at local procurement. So are goods and services being supplied by a City of Whittlesea business, and are things taken into consideration with the budget? Are they reasonable? If there are certainly some, if you're receiving quotes and goods and services from businesses that are not located within the City of Whittlesea, then there is an opportunity within the application to let us know why. And we'll certainly keep an open mind to that. Now, the other stream the other grant that's going along open at the moment is our economic development grants. So this is, I guess, a smaller yet still effective funding application to certainly consider. And here we're looking at providing funding of up to $3,000 to businesses and social enterprise for projects that will deliver social impact. So if a business has a project that helps the community or the environment, then the $3,000 can be put towards that. And also undertake a digital assessment and online capability. So again, here we're looking at projects that increase or modify business operations or models to increase the business's viability, or to allow them to enter a new market. Now, it does sound similar to the previous in the business assistant grants. These economic development grants were released prior to, so there are still opportunities to apply for this particular stream as well, which we'll see the key dates in just a moment. Thanks, Crystal. So as I mentioned, these are open at the moment, and will close at the end of the month, which we will then see to inform you within October and then allow you to start your project in October. So again, being very timely. Thanks, Crystal. And for the economic development grants here, we are matching it against 5 particular criteria in this case. So aims and outcomes, again, what is it that the project actually is and what are you looking to achieve? The level of, excuse me, the level of need. So have you told us why this particular project is needed, and how does it address the identified need? Similar to the other community grants, we look at equity, access and inclusion. So applicants are encouraged to consider how their project will be accessible and inclusive of all people, regardless of background and ability, and does your application address issues of equity, access and inclusion? Project sustainability, again, looking at how the proposed project and its outcomes will continue beyond the funding period. And last but not least, budget and applicant capacity. So taking into consideration, is the budget fair and reasonable, and is there a demonstrated capacity to deliver the project? I'll just see if there are any particular questions at this point. doesn't. Oh, here we go.
Sarah, there's one
Yep.
about past purchases. Does it have to be new purchases, or can past purchases be included for the grants?
Sure. For the business assistant grants, it is purely for new purchases. So unfortunately, the grants aren't for reimbursements of any purchases already made.
Great.
Doesn't look like there's any others, but look, as I mentioned before at the start, I strongly encourage you to contact the economic development team and we'll provide those details. All of our details are also available on our website, so please reach out to us because the team is there to assist. Thank you, Crystal. I'll pass it back to you.
Sorry, muted while I'm trying to speak to everyone. It's not really an online session until someone does that, right? So the next one of our grant programs, this is something that we usually offer in non-COVID times, is the Female Inclusion in Sport Grant Program. So as you can see there, these ones are $3,000. And again, they're specifically for our sporting clubs and they're for projects aimed at increasing female involvement in all aspects of the club. So that could be from, you know, the board and committee right through to coaches, as players, any involvement throughout the club. So these ones, we're hoping to get these ones open for you in the next couple of weeks. So starting on the 1st of October. Again, this one is going to have, this is the first time we're actually going to offer 2 rounds in this grant program. So hopefully it caters a bit more to the summer clubs and then the winter clubs. You can see there the first round is for our summer clubs and opens in October. And then the winter round is open in kind of late February into March. So your project, again, very similar, will be assessed against 4 criteria, aims and outcomes. So we know, I guess the primary aim is to increase female involvement, but is there anything else that you're hoping to get out of out of a project through these grants? Equity, access and inclusion. So for this one, again, we're looking at how you're going to enable people from diverse backgrounds to be involved, but also does your project reflect the community in your local area? So that might, it could be through different age groups, it could be different cultural backgrounds. So how are you going to bring those people into the club or into this project? Project sustainability. So again, will the outcomes from the project be long-term? How are you going to keep those outcomes going? And again, budget and applicant capacity. I think it's important to note with these ones, you don't have to have, if it's increasing physical activity, it doesn't need to be specific to your club. So if you're a soccer club, it doesn't have to be a soccer program. It could be a walking group for mums while their juniors are training. You might have, first aid courses, anything that's going to help increase activity and involvement within the club. The next grant that we have is the Environmental Works Grant. These are open now. They're open until the end of November. As you can see there, they are for rural landowners. So by that we mean that you're on a property with more than, I think it's 2 hectares. As I said, they're open now. Applicants are notified later in the year, so December, January, and you have until the 30th of September next year to complete that project. These ones are assessed a little bit differently. So they're based on the priorities of our sustainability team. So the first one is protection of remnant vegetation. So that could be through building permanent fencing to protect remaining bushland. It could be fencing around isolated paddock trees and around farm dams to protect that vegetation. Environmental weed control. So this is to reduce the threat to the remaining bush land. Revegetation to enhance remnant vegetation. So that is, replanting and repopulating areas of growth. So that can be around paddock trees or in adjacent bush areas. Could be shelter belts as well and around the boundary lines. Again, establishing new vegetation and fencing, fencing off that vegetation. It also includes establishing habitat for local wildlife. So that also includes nesting boxes and minor erosion control works. So that covers off on each of the grant programs that we have currently on offer and the ones that are coming up soon. Before you start writing an application or before you submit that application, I really strongly encourage you to consider the who, what, where, when, and why and how of your project. So, who's going to be involved, who's going to benefit from the project, what is the project. It's good to give a brief description of the project, but also we often ask for a little bit of a breakdown. So what activities are you going to hold? Where is it going to be located? When? Understanding that at the moment it's hard to plan things, so we can be a bit flexible on dates, but it's good to know that you've kind of planned ahead and you've got an idea of when you would like to hold that. Why is the project important, not just for your own group, but are you going to be inviting, especially with that Reconnection Grant program, the wider community is going to be invited to this event or project? And why are they going to benefit? How are you going to get them there? So consider all those kind of things. I think if you keep those 6 questions in mind, you will answer everything that you need to. So just a few things to remember. So use clear, straightforward language. We know it takes a lot of time to get an application together, so definitely make it simple for you. We are just people, the same as you, our assessors are as well, so the easier you can make it for them to understand, the better. Write in the active voice, so, we will do this, we will engage these people. Be reasonable and realistic. So think about how much things are going to cost, how long things are going to take you to get done, especially at the moment when we can't get together for meetings. Try and use a bit of persuasive language. You really want to not necessarily pull on the heartstrings, but you want to make that connection with the assessors, not knowing who they are. So be persuasive about why this project is really needed for your community. Try and provide all the information and documentation that's required before you submit the application. It just speeds up the whole application process. I know for council, we will try and contact you. If you apply early enough, we'll try and contact you if there's anything missing. But for other grant providers, they may not give you that opportunity to submit things at a later date. Where you can, check spelling, grammar, your facts and figures. Understanding that a lot of our community come from different backgrounds and English may be a second, third, fourth language for you. So we're not marking it based on your spelling, but definitely with those facts and figures and watching out where you put that dot point, especially when you're writing, like doing your budget, because we'd understand if you are applying for, say, possibly up to $200 worth of catering, but if you miss that dot point and it ends up being $2,000 to $20,000 worth of catering, it might raise some questions. If it's easier for you to keep track of things, please use bullet points. especially when you're answering those 6 how, what, where, when, and why questions. If it keeps it clear in your mind, then please use those dot points, and it possibly makes it clearer for our assessors as well. Check that your budget adds up, and we do ask for all of our grants that if you're looking at buying or hiring anything that's $500 or more, that you include a quote. So make sure you've got those as well. And like we said at the start, try not to leave it till the last minute. I know today is a bit short notice if this is the first time you've heard about the community group support grants. But watch the space. There are always grant opportunities coming up. So we can definitely, definitely for next time, think about what you need funding for, and then look for those grant programs that could support that project rather than getting funding and trying to fit a project to that. So it looks like we've got a few questions coming in now. While we go through those questions, I'm just going to leave this slide up so that you've got our contact information. So we've got each of the grant programs listed there that we've just spoken about, Sarah and myself, and the different contact details that you need. Again, if you don't get a chance to jot this down, you can come back to the recording later on, or all of our information on the website as well. So let's have a look at some of these questions. Wondering if you can include purchases of equipment as part of the grant funding. So I know for our community grants, you can apply for up to 50% equipment. So if you're applying for the full $5,000, you could apply for up to $2,500. Sarah, is that the same for your grants? Is it 50%?
We actually, Crystal, there's no percentage. What we will look at though is just to ensure that if you are making purchases of any equipment, that there is a clear link to that being in response to Covet and business adaptation. That's all.
Great, thank you. So I'm sorry, Peter, I missed your question. How about walking football for senior citizens? Definitely. If you're part of a sporting club, and that's, if you've seen that a lot of the local community is that older demographic, then you could definitely apply for that sort of activity as well. Keep in mind with that female inclusion grant, we are specifically looking for projects that engage females. So if you found that it's something that older females are interested in, then I would definitely say that it's something you could apply for. With the other grant programs, you could possibly apply for that as well. With your rabbit control question, Peter, so does the Environment Works grant program include rabbit control methods? I've got to be honest, I'm not entirely sure. This isn't really my area of expertise. But if you wanted to touch base with the Sustainable Land Management Officer, they'd be able to give you a much clearer idea of whether that's something that could be covered or not. Have we got any more questions?
Yes, there are some questions there. We've got one that says, can the item be purchased cost more than $5,000 and I make up the extra?
Yeah, so you can definitely apply. So if you know that your equipment is going to require more than half of what you can apply for through council grants, you're definitely able to contribute your own resources to that as well. That shows that you're invested in the project or activity that you're wanting to run.
I'd agree with that too, Crystal. Yeah, so if it's in regards to the business assistance grants or the economic development ones, then yeah, absolutely. If you're looking to purchase something that's more than that, yeah, as long as you're happy to show us that what your contribution will be, then that will certainly be considered.
We have a question. Can these grants be used by not-for-profit associations assisting senior residents?
Yeah, definitely. So the grants that we have available for community groups or not-for-profit community groups, so those would be the community group support and the reconnection. Definitely open to assist senior residents. Just keep in mind that the community group support grant, if you already receive funding through our Senior Citizens Grant program, then you're actually not able to apply for those ones because you can use those senior grants for similar activities.
On that note, we had another question. Not-for-profit working on a COVID community support project can apply.
Yeah, so as long as it's a not-for-profit group, so we do ask that your group is incorporated for those community ones. If you're not incorporated, you can be supported with an auspice organisation who are incorporated. And then, yes, you're more than welcome to apply for those COVID kind of response activities as well.
New question. Are the criteria listed somewhere on the website?
Yeah, so if you go to that, the website that we've got up on the screen now, that takes you to where you'll find all the grant information that council has on all of our programs. And from there, you can go into each of the programs that we have on offer. So you might be interested in the Reconnection Grant. If you click on that, it'll have the guidelines for each of our grant programs listed there.
And finally, can purchases of capital equipment be included as part of the grant funding?
So correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah. So I think they can be for business. With the community grants, you wouldn't be able to have capital equipment or capital, capital works can't be included for community.
Yes, that's correct, Crystal. So in capital works, no, but in terms of equipment, yes, as long as it's clearly linked that it's being purchased in response to COVID and it's improving and contributing to your business model changes and adaptions.
Awesome. It looks like those are all the questions we have at the moment. Yeah, I'm getting a nod from my producers in the background. So thank you everyone for coming along and spending your lunchtime with us to find out more about the grant programs. You've got the contact details there. Please do feel free to contact any of the grant administrators if you have questions about specific grant programs or specific projects. As mentioned, we will probably put these questions up as well as a separate kind of document outside of the recording, so you don't have to scroll through the whole thing to get to those answers that you're after. Other than that, thank you for joining us. Have a great day. Thanks, everyone.
We have one more question.
Oh,
it just came in. Can the environmental work grant be applied to a community garden group?
Oh, good question. I will have to double check that with our environmental works team. I'm pretty sure you can. As long as you're on that, acreage, or you're on that property that's more than 2 hectares. All right, so cool. If there's no other questions, we'll wrap up there. Have a great day. Enjoy that sunshine. Thanks, everyone.